This video I'm going to be talking about my '03 Mercury Marauder. I need to get this thing to pass smog. It's been sitting, so I need to get the battery connected and drive this thing around so it can do its monitors, so it can basically run its diagnostics checks on the emission systems. And we're going to talk about how to get a vehicle to pass that in this video. So when you disconnect the battery on a vehicle, it clears the memory of the monitors. So this car, I don't drive it all the time, so I disconnect the battery. Now that I have to take it in to get smogged, I need to connect the battery and drive it around so the computer can basically do its diagnostics check of the emission system. And what does that entail? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. But first, this terminal clamp broke off of here. This car's pretty old. I got to put a new terminal clamp on this thing. I just got a cheapy clamp from AutoZone. So I need to get these wires exposed here. I don't know if I can just pull these out. Alright, I got the old terminal clamp off of there. You might be asking why I go through that of opening it up, because this wire over here is kind of short already. And I don't want to try and shorten it down any, so I just wanted to undo the clamp so I can put this new clamp on there. But before I do that, I want to try and clean up the surface area of this to try and get a little bit better connection on these. I'm going to put a little dielectric grease on here. I ended up using a wire brush, a little bit of wire brush, and that green Brillo pad to clean these up just to get a better surface connection. I'm going to put some of this dielectric grease on there. A common misconception with this dielectric grease is that it conducts electricity. It does not conduct electricity. It's mainly to keep it from corroding, like the connection from getting corroded and stuff like that. So I'm going to put that on there and then clamp this wire on. Alright, so that clamp feels pretty good. You can go ahead and tighten it down and see if the vehicle starts, and we can do everything else we need to do. Let's see if this battery is putting enough juice.
Hit rugby scrum.
Okay, so we got power to the vehicle. I haven't tried to start it yet, but I just want to confirm that there's a P1000 code. To do that, I got this really cheap code reader. And to be honest with you, this little code reader, it does very minimal stuff. It reads codes and it clears codes. But I'll tell you, it's probably one of the... I go to this thing more frequently because it's easy to use. You just plug it in and read it. I don't know what the part number is. I probably paid 20 bucks for this thing, but let's see if we get a P1000 code. It even has the little monitors up here to tell you which ones have gone through, and I have 5 blinking right now. So I'm going to see if I can get some of those to stay on. And to do that, there's a whole bunch of things to do, but the first thing I want to do is make sure I got enough fuel in here. My fuel is below 1/4 of a tank. I want to fill this thing up to a 1/2 to 3/4 full. All right, so to complete the monitor test, there's a series of things that you need to do that have to do with just driving around town type thing. When you're trying to get a car to go through all of its monitors, you don't want to just get on the freeway and cruise at like 60 miles an hour for an hour. That you want to do about 50 miles at least. And so I got a list of some things, and I'll put it down in the description down there. Some of the things that are included in some of these drive cycles. One thing is you want to make sure that it's a 1/2 tank to 3/4 tank of fuel. And then once you start driving, things like let the engine idle for 15 seconds and then drive 40 miles an hour until the engine coolant temp gets to 170 degrees. Cruise at 55 miles an hour, and then drive stop and go traffic, 5 different constant cruises, and that's like accelerate at part throttle from a stop to 45 miles an hour at 1/2 to 3/4 throttle 3 times. So there's a whole list of these things that the car needs to see in order to run its tests. And instead of giving the list out for each individual car, what most smog shops will say is if the battery's been disconnected, you have a P1000 code, or if you have monitors that still need to ran, is just drive it around town for at least 50 to 100 miles. And when you do that, you usually hit every one of these things, and then you can take it in and it'll pass smog. All of this might be going away because there's a bunch of talk recently about California doing away with some emissions testing. I don't know if that'll eventually get up to 03 for this Marauder, but I like that idea because some of my vehicles are earlier than 90. I think they're looking to push it up to 90 right now, or even do away with carb. I personally would like that from a vehicle standpoint, so we'll see what happens. But first of all, let's see if this thing will start. All right, well, that's a good sign. When I moved it from the side of the house to out front here, it had a hard time moving. I'd have to rev it up until it got to about 2,500 RPM, and then it would start moving. Same with reverse and first gear, second gear. So that's a good indication that the transmission was low on trans fluid. And so I put new transmission fluid in there, and it seemed like it helped to get it where it needs to go, but I haven't driven it since then. And it kind of worries me because if the transmission fluid is leaking out, like where is it leaking from? Where is it going? Like it's got to be going somewhere. So we'll see. It's time to get this drive going. All right, time to see if this thing will move under its own power. We're downhill right now, so this doesn't really count. It's just rolling downhill. There we go. A little sluggish getting into gear. Still feels like it's slipping a little bit, so drive it around, see if it gets a little better. Well, maybe some of the fluid just needs to cycle around inside the trans, get it shift a couple of times, see how it goes. I reset the tripometer. I don't even know if that thing works or not, but that'll help with whether or not I've done 50 miles or 100 miles or what. But I got it almost up to operating temperature. This thing's pretty fun to drive. They came with stall converters in them. It's like the 03s had 2400 stall converters in them. So the thing really accelerates in 355 gears. I've forgotten how much fun it is to drive. So when I first started driving this thing, it wouldn't really move without pushing the gas. So now I'm at a stoplight, stop sign, see if this thing moves under its power, see if the trans is starting to free up a little bit. A little bit moving forward. Still slipping a little bit though. It's making it a little difficult because when you're doing this, you want to try to have a really smooth foot. You don't want to do hard acceleration, hard braking, things like that. Some of the evap stuff is going to need the fuel in the tank to not be sloshing around so much. That's why you want a half to 3/4 of a tank, which I'm going to head to the gas station right now and put a little bit in there because I'm a little under a half a tank, so I want to get it up above a half a tank, and then I'll just drive it around the rest of the day and see if it'll pass smog. All right, I've gone just over 50 miles, and I'm about to take this over to the smog shop and see if it'll pass smog. I'm gonna check, see if these monitors have ran or not. I still have one blinking, but I think in California you can have like the evap not ran yet and it'll be fine. I did have to put a couple of quarts of ATF in the transmission to get it to shift kind of how I wanted it to shift, but you know, everything drives pretty well. I'm gonna go take it in and see if I can't get this thing to pass smog. All right, so it passed smog. It ran all the monitors except the evap monitor, which in California it's okay if that monitor hasn't been ran yet. So it's all good to go. Again, I'll put some of the description on how to get a car to pass its drive cycle and its monitors and stuff down in the description below. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you got any questions. Make sure to like and subscribe.